Hello and welcome to the third video in this guide to testing your trade idea. This video is all about the analysis phase, and I will show how to run a trade simulation using entry and exit events, which will result in a list of historical trades and various statistics around those trades. In order to run a trade simulation, we need an exit event in addition to our entry event. And so in keeping with the idea of developing a system around Bollinger Bands, we will use price crossing a %B level as our exit. The scripts to detect Bollinger Band crosses were developed in the second video on visualization, and so revisit that video for a refresher on how to write those scripts. Once the trade simulation has been run and the trade list has been created, we'll show how to easily view the individual trades on a chart and look at overall system performance. And finally, we'll look at how to automate the process of trade simulation and run multiple configurations at once in a batch process. So let's dive in. Okay, so now I'm in EdgeRater. I'll go to the Entries and Exits tab, and here I can drop the chart script for %B cross up into the security selector here and set a threshold of 1. I'm running this on a GLD for the entire history of data that we have for GLD. So I've got all of the entries here, and then for the exits I'm going to choose %B cross down, and we're going to experiment with some numbers here, but just give an example here. Let's say %B cross down through 0, i.e. price crosses down through the lower Bollinger Band. Let's find all of those occurrences, and then head on over to the Trade Simulation tab and knit together these entries and exits by saying I'm going to enter trade entry rules long, event bar on close, and use an exit event bar on close, and I'm not going to worry about stops or portfolio rules, and just going to hit run here. So now it's created a list of trades using those entry events and those exit events. It's telling me how many days in each of those trades, and it will tell me the P&L %. You can sort by any of these columns, so you can find the biggest P&L was 12.72%, which was a 126-day trade, started on 5/13/2019. So let's go back and sort it by entry date. And now to see these on a chart, I'll just double click on one of these. That'll pop a chart up. I'll put it over here. And if I turn on annotations on the chart and scroll out into view, we can see exactly where the entry and the exit was. As I scroll down through the list, we'll see that the entry fired on several occasions using that very same exit for the trade. Okay, so remember the exit is crossing down through a lower Bollinger Band, which is right here, and the exit is crossing up through the upper Bollinger Band, which happened several times in the course of this move here. These two areas are showing some events. They're set to 0.5 level, so if I just change that formula parameter to be a 1, that will actually show the signals for the crossing up, and then crossing down will set the formula parameter here to the 0, so we should see the signals here just to confirm that we are actually seeing the right things on the chart. So here's an entry, it's matched with this red event here, and here's the exit here. So you can see the exit event didn't really happen that many times in the course of this run. But as we go down through the list, and I'll just use my keyboard to scroll down through this list, we can see exactly all of the entries and the exits. Now the reason that we're seeing multiple trades with the same exit is because we didn't set the portfolio rules here, and we left the default to allow duplicates. And if we turn off allow duplicates and just hit the run again, we'll find that you're only going to get the first entry, and the system will not enter another trade whilst you already have a trade on in that particular symbol. So this time we're just going to see one entry for each of the exits. And that's obviously going to affect the overall result as well. For now though, I'm just going to allow duplicates, because if you disallow duplicates, you're really we're already relying a lot on the sequence of these trades occurring in order to calculate some of these statistics, and I'll show a way to get around that with Monte Carlo testing later. But if we disallow duplicates, we're really restricting it to the very first trade that occurred, and we're not even seeing all of the occurrences of trades that could have occurred. So I'll just hit run again after allowing duplicates, and we'll see that overall the system has a negative performance. We look at the trade summary, we can see that out of the 76 trades there were 29 winners and 47 losers. The average winner was a 4.53% winner, and the average loser was a negative 3.37%. And out of all trades, the average profit and loss per trade was negative 0.36%. So overall, a losing system over that time period in GLD. We can also take a quick look at the distribution of trades. So anything to the left of this blue line here is a losing trade, and it shows the frequency of any percent levels. And on the right hand side of the blue line you can see the winning trades, and way out to the right you can see that between 12 and 13% gains there were 3 trades that had that percent gain. We can also take a look at the daily equity chart, and I just have the equity graph here and a comparison symbol of GLD, so you can see that as gold was coming down this system was actually losing as well, and when gold bottomed out and started to come up, and gold by the way is the lighter colored line in the background, but when that started to turn around and come up, this system was still having losing trades until September of 2018, and then the system started to do a little bit better, but overall not a very good system. And that is trading when buying when price crosses above the upper Bollinger Band, and holding and selling when price crosses below the lower Bollinger Band. So let's experiment a bit with some other parameters. I'll just bring up the trade list again, and now I'm going to pop over back over to the entries and exits, and this time I'm going to change my entry to be a threshold of 0, and I'm going to hit the run again, and I'm going to leave let's change the exits to 1. So this is kind of the opposite system. Okay, so go to hit run again on there, and just go to the trade simulation, and without making any changes to anything else, just hit run, and it's going to run with those new entries and exits. And now let's see what that actually is and looks like on a chart. So this time it's entering when price crosses above a lower Bollinger Band, and exiting when price crosses down below an upper Bollinger Band. So you see a completely different system here, and we can scroll through some of these trades and see what they look like. Now overall this system was profitable, and if we go to the trade summary we can see that out of 67 trades there were 37 winners and 30 losers. The average winner was 4.95%, the average loser was negative 3.89%. The P&L distribution looks like this, and the daily equity chart looks a little bit better in that there still was this big drawdown here whilst gold was selling off, but there's a nice steady rise since then, and that's since July of 2013. So overall this is a better system than the first system we looked at. So what I've done here is manually run 2 systems and done some manual comparison by looking at charts and statistics. But what would be ideal would be able to run a batch of simulations with different parameters and take a look at the results all on one sheet in one report. And so that is the trade simulation batch run, which is what we're going to do right now. So in order to run a batch of trade simulations, we need to be able to configure the simulation settings somewhere. So take a look on the right hand side of the trade simulation tab, and you'll see that the simulation settings consist of some script settings, trade entry rules, trade exit rules, stops and portfolio rules. And we also need to be able to specify the entry script and the exit script. So just bear that in mind, and we're now going to take a look at where you can configure those items. So on your file system in the EdgeRater folder under Configuration, Trade Simulations and System, there are some pre-configured trade simulations. There's a close to close trade simulation which trades every day, the close of one day to the close of the next day. There's a close to open. There's a few others in here too, and you feel free to take a look at those. I'm going to open up the close to close and show you what it consists of. So sim close to close has just one simulation in here. It's called close to close simulation. The entry script is always true, which means it's going to be a 1 value or a true for every single day. It's going to trade on the long side, on the close of the entry bar. It's going to open the trade, and it's going to use a fixed hold period. So that's set to true in there, and the hold period is 1 day. And then that's pretty much it for this one. It's going to exit after a day on the close of the following day, and the rest of the items in there are set to default values. Now also in here there is an Excel file called read how to use trade simulations, so that's a good place to start as well. And there's a description in here on what you need to do to set up a batch of trade simulations. Basically what I just said, you create a new Excel workbook, but you put it into the simulations folder, not the system folder, because system folder is something that will be overwritten during an update, but I'll show you in a second where to put it. And once you've copied over one of the existing trade simulations, it's pretty straightforward to figure out how to then modify it to put your own entry and exit rules and configuration parameters in. So that's what we're going to do right now. I'm going to choose sim to close as the starting point. So I'm going to Control C, copy that, go to trade simulations. So that's the one above system, and I'm just going to copy it in there. So that's where you would put your own trade simulations, right in here, not into the system folder. As I said before, anything in the system folder will be overwritten during an update, so you will lose any work if you put it in there. Now, once it's in the trade simulations folder, feel free then to open it up in Excel and make any changes that are necessary for your simulation. Let's go back into EdgeRater and see what we had for the entries and exits. For the entry script, we had the script %b_cross_up, okay, from the My Scripts area. And for the exit script, we had %b_cross_down with a parameter of 1 in this case, also from the My Scripts area. So how do we specify that in this configuration file? Well, the entry script is then going to be that name, so %b_cross_up. And because it's in the My Scripts area, it's one of your own scripts, it has to be preceded with a my dot. So my.%b_cross_up, and then you can put the parameter in there too, the threshold level. And we'll try different threshold levels, but we'll for now just use crossing up above the lower Bollinger Band, so 0. The exit script is going to be my.%b_cross_down, and we're going to say cross down through the 1 level, the upper Bollinger Band. And if you've run out of space here, you can double click on any of these to widen the column out so you can see what's going on. So it's going to be trading on the long side. It's going to enter on the close of the event bar. It's not going to use the fixed hold period, so we'll set that to false. Hold period doesn't matter because we're not using it, so we can just delete the contents of that. It doesn't actually matter if you leave it in there because this is set to false. And then the exit bar is going to be close. That's fine too. So it's going to exit on the close of the exit event. And these other columns in here, configuration settings, I'm going to leave set to their default values. Allow duplicates in here is set to false. I might just change that to be a true. So we will allow duplicates. And that is one configuration. Now, obviously, it is no longer a close-to-close simulation. It needs to have a better name so that we know what this is. And feel free to name it something that you know what it actually contains, what the file contains. So I'll say this is my sim %b_cross batch. There is only one configuration in there at the moment, but we'll add more and it will become a batch of simulations that will be run together. So now we've actually got that 1 in there. Okay, and we know with the tag in this case I will change to make it, I'll say this, and it's a text field, this one, so I can put whatever I want in here, but it's just something to let me know what this particular row, this particular configuration simulation is. So this is the entry is on a 0 and the exit is on a 1. Okay, so that's all I'm going to put in there. You'll see where that becomes important in just a second. Now if I save this, and now come back into EdgeRater and go to the Templates tab, and now I'm going to look into the trade simulation category, and there is a batch run template in here. So in the batch run template, I'm going to now select the file that I just created. So it will by default sort of put you in the system area, but remember we need to go one level up there to the trade simulations. And here's the file, sim%b cross batch. I'll open that. And now you also have to specify an output folder. And the output folder is where it's going to put all of the reports that it generates for the entire batch. So I'll leave this set to, well, I'll actually change this. So it's in the reports folder, and then we'll call it %b cross batch. Okay, and you'll see that in a second. And now I can choose to either use the entire date history that I have in GLD for this symbol list, or I can choose a specific date from and to. So what I'm going to do is say I'm not going to override the dates, I'm going to use the entire history of dates. And remember in here we have this set to 10 years of data, could be more or less, up to you. So that's all set up now. All I have to do is now just press run. It's going to process the 1 configuration in there, and it has now created, and by the way, because in the reports viewer we were doing something with the chart, I had the chart occupy the whole area. I'm just going to drag this back into the area on the right hand side, and I might just for the moment just collapse that down so all we see is the report here. So this has run the trade simulation. The tag is 01, that's the tag we have in there. There were 66 trades. This is the average percent, 0.94, number of bars, average per trade, and the win rate. And in running this as a batch, it's generated this trade simulation report file. If we select the row, we are able to then use the open linked document button up here, and now this is actually the simulation report as it would have been generated if you had done it manually. So you get the exact same information that you would have gotten manually, but now it's done as part of a batch. Let me just drop that into this area too, so it's now one of these tabs. And so this is the trade list, it's going to show you by default, but you have the other information in there too. For instance, the summary information containing the number of trades, 66, and the other statistics. Now the important numbers from this report have all been extracted into the summary. So telling you the count of trades, the average percent, number of bars, and the percent wins. You can confirm that you're getting the correct results by running the simulation manually and just comparing the simulation results. And so here is the trade simulation tab after we ran it manually and was getting 66 trades here, 51 days. If we go to the trade summary tab on here, 66, 54.55% winning trades, and the average profit and loss per trade of 0.94%. If we go back over to our summary over here, exactly these numbers here. So it appears to be doing the correct thing, which is a good thing. And now we can go ahead and add more configurations to this batch to run more threshold levels and get a nice comparison. So that's going to involve bringing up the Excel configuration again. So this is the %b cross batch that we started, and we've already got one row in here, one configuration. To create another configuration, you can actually just copy that, paste it down, and then we can set different values in here. So say we wanted to do a 0 for the first one, the entry script %b cross up through 0, so crossing the lower Bollinger Band, and for the exit we could say exit through 0, just for fun. All of the other parameters stay the same in here. I'll just save that and then bring back EdgeRater, go to the templates. All of this information stays the same. I just have to hit run again. And now it's done, it's run those two configurations and given the summary report of those two configurations together. So you can see here I made a mistake and didn't change the tag of the second configuration, so actually on the summary it's hard to tell which is which. That's what the tag information is all about, enabling you to distinguish between different configurations. So let's change that to the correct tag, which is 0, 0, and go back and run again. And this time you can see that the tag has been updated properly. Different number of trades in here, different averages, different number of bars held, and different win rate as we would expect. And you can open up either of these reports, the actual full report, so what we're seeing here is the summary, but the full reports have also been generated. And you can open them up by clicking on the correct row and then saying open link to document. And that will allow you to see all of the trades, and also you can double click and now you're in the reports viewer. It might be even easier to see these trades. So the way that that would work is you just have your chart over here and you can cycle down through your trade list to see all of the entries and exits. So now as a final step, what I want to do is run through a number of configurations, not just these two, but I want to vary the parameters in different ways. And so I'm just going to enter a number of configurations and you can follow along and see exactly what I've done here. So I've basically duplicated those rows for two entry cases. The first entry case is this case here, which is crossing up through the 0 level on %b, so price crossing up through the lower Bollinger Band. And for each one of these, the exit case has been modified. So choosing all of the variations in between, so %b crossing down through -0.1, crossing down through 0, crossing down through 0.1, all the way through to crossing down through 1.1. And then I've repeated those same exits, but now choosing the entry to be price crossing up through the 1% B level, so price crossing above the upper Bollinger Band. Now, you could go and add more than this because you can test all of the entries in between the 0 and the 1 as well with all of those exits, and you would then multiply your cases by quite a lot. But for this video I wanted to keep it fairly straightforward and only have the number that we have in here, which is, let's just see how many that is exactly, 26 different configurations. So I'm going to save this file, come back into EdgeRater and go to the templates and just hit run. Everything else is the same. It's using the same configuration file and everything else remains the same. So just going to hit run on there. It'll take a little bit longer to run, and the lower left we're given some information about what it's currently running, so it will go through those configurations and eventually we'll come up with a final result. And we can sort this final result by, say, the average % column, and we can see that the best set of parameters was 0 and the 0.1. So that is price crossing up through the lower Bollinger Band and holding the trade until price crosses down through the 0.1 level, which is quite close to the lower Bollinger Band. And there were 66 trades in there with an average of 1.3%, 27 bar hold, and a win rate of only 37%. So low win rate, but a high average. So let's open that. That's interesting. Let's open that link to document and see the actual trades. And then we can just scroll through these trades to see exactly where they were. We can zoom in a little bit. Okay, so that's what the trades tended to look like. We can sort the trades here as well by the best trades to the worst trades. So let's do that. Put our chart into the center there. And so we can see we've got some quite good trades. We do have more losing trades, but the losing trades are losing less overall. So we can see that the summary here is that we have 37% winners, so 25 winners out of 66 with a 5.85% average gain for the winners, and 41 losers with a negative 1.46% for those losers, which gives us an average profit and loss of plus 1.31%. And that value is reflected over here, 1.31%. So all of that summary information is extracted from the trade simulation report. So let's go to the bottom of this list, and we can see that there are actually two losing propositions here. And the first one is the crossing up through 0 for the buy and waiting till you cross down through the 1.1 for the exit. The second one is one that we already saw, which is crossing above the upper Bollinger Band for the entry and waiting until price crosses down to the lower Bollinger Band for the exit. So we saw that one already. We knew that was a losing trade. And this one we hadn't seen before, so that's an extra interesting piece of information. But you can see how the averages here change where the parameters are different. So we can quickly get an idea of which one of those %B levels is better for trading on the entry and also on the exit. So that brings us to the end of this third video on the analyze phase. And here we've seen how to run a trade simulation using entries and exits in EdgeRater, and how to do that manually, and then how to specify a configuration in a configuration file and add more rows to that file to specify more configurations, and then run a batch simulation and extract the summaries from each one of those individual simulations in the batch and compare them to each other. So in the next video we're going to take it a step further and take these batch reports, run a Monte Carlo simulation on each of these to give us more of an idea in terms of Monte Carlo, which resequences trades, and then apply some other tagging techniques to see if there are other parameters that might be interesting. And I'm not talking about parameters of %B, but completely separate factors that might be interesting to make these trades even better. So I'll see you in the next video.